Here we go. 3, 2. It's nerve-wracking, isn't it? 1. Hey, welcome to the CrossFit 310 QuickPod. My name is Kris Germain. The famous Jen McMahon is joining me today. Do your fist pump. Do your in-home fist pump.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome, Jen. Glad to have you back.
Thanks.
We're doing a thing.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah. If you didn't catch the last QuickPod that we did, Jen and I had a conversation on small habits. Something that we talk about a lot at 310. We've been talking about it for years. We have also made tons of mistakes over the years, and that has really led, or I'll say me and the gym and nutrition. Hey, I spent so many years making mistakes with nutrition and habits that's how me and Jen got together. I met her and we started talking about nutrition, and then she came on a podcast back in the day, and we went from there. I was literally pursuing a better way, and I still am. I always want to be doing this better. So we together have been talking about nutrition and exercise and habits, like building a better us and doing it in a better way. And we're always trying to sidestep the white knuckle thing. That for us, we agree is poison. It works.
Well, it just doesn't get you somewhere you want to go in the long term. It's short-term thinking.
Yep. Plus it kills you. No.
Literal poison. It's like literally poison.
Yeah, it just, we think it's going to get us this thing, this white knuckle, all in type of mentality. So me and you did a podcast talking about smaller habits is really the revolution. We talk about it a lot. The hardest thing about this is it's not a very sexy sell. That's the hardest thing about this. For some reason, if YouTube is like, you just need to do this one thing, you do it every day, and it's for 6 weeks, and I don't know, we're all in, or we just jump into the next idea, the 6-week challenge. So what happened after we talked about that was we had mentioned 2 books, one by Charles Duhigg and one by James Clear, The Power of Habit and Atomic Habits, which are revolutionary books talking about habits. And I started reading further James Clear's book, and it just started resonating so deeply. I was like, we just got to talk about it a lot. And I think that now is a great time to talk about it. One, because the things that he says in the book, which Charles Duhigg will say a lot of them too, it's just a good time. This book is all over the place. And momentum means something. And he's a good writer. So he says things succinctly, and there are things that you can grab onto. And for a small business like us, I also think that sometimes it's great to have somebody, like there's a book, somebody who's published, right, saying something that resonates with things that we teach all of the time. I mean, all the time inside of this place, whether we're in classes, whether we're in personal training, whether we're health coaching, we're just talking about life. So for that reason, we are going to do a book club. It's like Kris Germain's book club. So
that's right.
But what we're going to do with this is we're inviting people to go get this book. And then me and you, and we're going to invite some others into this, are just going to slowly go through the principles of this book as they resonate with us, how we teach here, and we think that there is value for anybody. I believe value whether you're in our gym or whether you just have some proximity. And proximity can be YouTube. Welcome to anybody who stumbled over this thing on YouTube. This is valuable stuff. What else? How else should we introduce what we're talking about today?
Well, I think one way that I think is relatable for people is like while the 6-week concept might be sexier and it might feel like results now and all that instant gratification, I think one thing that's relatable about this topic is it's doable. And I can't think of anyone out there who hasn't had the experience where they did all the things and it lasted a week and it just didn't feel sustainable. And so what I think is really cool about his methodology and what he's talking about with habits is they might not feel like huge, big changes, but they're doable things that aren't going to dramatically shift your life overnight, but over time. And so it feels a little bit more like something you could do. It's just a little more attainable.
That is literally the entire philosophy of this. And what we'll start talking about, in fact, we're going to talk about the philosophy of it today. But the entire thing is that something that is doable and repeatable, is 100 times more powerful than one profound thing or a giant profound thing that you might even do and succeed at, like a nutrition challenge. We did nutrition challenge. We had a thing called Live Fit that we loved to do, but we were always telling people that it was just a microscope. It was supposed to just flash over you and expose things that you needed to work on so that you would have a realization of where you are. But many things you can do it well and do it right, but it's not sustainable. And then therefore you lose it or you don't get it because you just can't finish it, So the chapter that we are going through is chapter 1 today. And we want this to be such a generous invite into this conversation that even the habit that might be associated with having to read a book and do this thing, me and Jen and some others are just going to start chipping away at this. We want to be a resource for you in this. We want to expound on some of these principles. And I had the conversation this morning. One of the great ladies who was inside of the gym, inside of class this morning, was like, man, maybe I could find a time to get this book read during this week when we're away. And I actually told her, I said, you know what? If your plan is to just read it all at once, don't even buy it. Don't, and I meant that in a generous way, but there's so much stuff in here. If you just read this book cover to cover and you read it in a couple of days, it won't work. You have to be able to digest it and you have to be able to implement at least something. And the easiest way is to say it out loud to another human or have an ongoing kind of meditation on this thing. So even the application of how we want to do this is one QuickPod at a time. That will not come out, like at least they'll be a week apart. And we will talk about small principles and challenge each other inside of this. So the chapter that we're going through today is the first chapter. It's after the introduction, and it is called The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. I'll let him introduce like what Atomic Habits is. It's pretty intuitive. You'll be able to catch up on it. But we are going to go through some talk points on this, things that stuck out for me and Jen. And so I guess the first thing that I'd like to do is read a quote from this, Jen, and we can just kind of launch into this, and then we can kind of smack it back and forth. Volley ideas back and forth.
Okay.
So this is where I'm going to start. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often, we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Whether it is losing weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth-shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. There's our first talk point.
That's right.
You want to start? You want to start off? This is wheelhouse for you.
Yeah, I think that so many people can relate to this. I mean, if it's not about weight loss, it's about some other goal they've had in their life, where it's sort of go big or go home, and you launch into this big idea, and before you know it, you're back to business as usual because you never really made the changes you needed to make to get this thing into your life in a habitual way. And so unfortunately, it ends up more times than not really coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Like everybody right now, it is the 28th of December. And there are so many people right now making a plan, and it's a big plan. And they are fired up right now. Then there's a whole nother tier of people that are like, they got a big plan, and they're a little less fired up and maybe even kind of scared about it because they've made plans before. And then there's a whole nother tier of people that are like, I don't do anything like that.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, so because they've just been wounded, and they don't want a reminder of that. And so we are proposing, James Clear's proposing a different thing. And so one of the things that is very interesting to me about this is overestimating the importance of a defining moment. I think about how we learn all the time because we teach every single day. It's what I do every day is I want to be teaching people and partnering with people and walking next to people, no matter if it's in classes or in life or what have you. And what, as an old man, I realize now, a really old man, I'm going to shave for the next one. What I realize is we think that we are going to remember what we would consider profound moments. And that we're like, this is, I'm changed. I am a changed person. But what I realize is we forget. We absolutely forget almost all the time. And having taught people, I will remember things I think are profound moments for people in classes. I'm like, this is the day. This is the day. Look what they are doing. This is the day. And they will forget that the moment ever exists. Sometimes it's my job to remind them that the moment exists. And then they'll also forget like teaching points, our memories just don't work like that. And so we forget what we consider big moments. And then this is something that you were interested in talking about, the invisibility of little moments.
Yes, it's true.
So talk
do
about,
seem invisible.
Yeah. Talk about that. Do you remember we were talking about a few examples of what he had used inside of here, just moments that are easy to forget because you.
Oh yeah, I kind of made up one earlier, and it was kind of this concept of like sculpting something out of wood or clay or whatever. You could picture some cool sculpture, and it didn't get there overnight. It got there after chiseling over and over and over again and chipping away at this thing. And over time, you end up with the goal or the beautiful sculpture or whatever it is that you wanted to get to. And so now it's kind of like identifying opportunity for that in your day to day.
Yeah. And that, so as I was reading through this first chapter, I got to a certain quote inside of here, and there's a few ways that he says this, but it's under the category of what progress is really like, or the heading, what progress is really like in this first chapter. And one of the things that he uses is an ice cube. He talks about the example of an ice cube at, if you're in a room that is 26 degrees, you put an ice cube, it's going to just sit on the table. And then slowly just raising the temperature inside of the room. Well, there's a lot that has been done to the room from 26 to 31 degrees. But at 32 degrees, the ice cube melts. And so there was a lot of change inside of there. And then This quote was amazing to me, and this is the one that really resonated to me. It is from Jacob Riis. Is that right?
Yeah.
Jacob Riis. The San Antonio Spurs have this hanging maybe above their locker room. It says, "When nothing seems to help, I go to look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in two. And I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before." And that's it for me. You know, I was like, when I read that, I was like, okay, this is where we kind of have to put a boundary on, because that concept all by itself is what we've got to be talking to each other about. That you've got to start with the first blow. You have to start with the first move. And then you might not, like, there were 100 swings of the hammer that were invisible. You know, there's energy and focus and work, and yet you can't see anything, but it does break because something is happening. And
well, and he talks about the people who essentially quit at like below 90, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't see any progress, they don't see any change, and they're like, I'm stuck, nothing's happening. But now we know in 10 more blows or 11 or whatever it is, that person makes the big change that looks like it happened quickly, but really it happened over time.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens, I think, to so many people as they get frustrated because they don't have instant gratification.
Yeah. One of the things that I really want to talk about with people coming to CrossFit 310, I talk about it a lot outside of circles. I talk about it in faith circles. I talk about it in recovery circles. And this is about time. That's what I really would like to talk with people about. That we can't be saying, you can't sign up for 101 swings either, because it might not be 101, you know, because somebody hearing that, you know, if we had that offering, you know, inside, I want the 101. I want it to happen in 101. I want it in 6 weeks. I want it in 8 weeks. But everybody is a little different. Everybody's got their own Rubik's Cube that needs to be solved. And so you sign up for time. And it's really time under tension. Time under tension is what we talk about a lot in the gym. And one time in the office, I accidentally made up a phrase called time under teaching. And that is what I want. Time under tension means when you start loading your frame, your body changes. The skeletal muscle changes. The bones literally harden and change. And the tissues literally harden and change. And your body becomes stronger. Time under teaching is the same idea, that you change being dipped into it, and you commit to staying inside of it and just learning invisible lessons. And the easiest way for us to articulate that, like, we know that we're teaching inside of classes and personal training and health coaching. We know that we're doing work. But what we ask them to do is put it on your calendar and show up Monday. That's what they do. And then they enter in, and it takes, you know, a relationship and a willingness, a humility to kind of work through it. But the very first thing that we ask them to do is, well, you said that you would like to come in 3 times a week. And so the first habit that they do is to get here. You want to speak to any?
I tell my runners that a lot. I say, like, because, you know, we run at 5 a.m, 6 a.m, and we get to, your alarm goes off at 4:30 or whatever it is, and you don't always feel like getting up and going running. But I try to tell people, if you could just get yourself here, I'll take care of the rest. So don't necessarily worry about the miles you need to put in. Don't worry about how hard it might feel. Don't worry about all that stuff. Just get here. Your first job is to just show up where I asked you to meet me. And then I'll take care of it from there. But you're right. If they just start doing the thing that they put on their calendar, the rest it really does kind of take care of itself over time.
It is amazing. I mentioned in the last QuickPod that we did, it was absolutely eye-opening. I got to have a moment where I traced it back and I realized that one of the most potent things that I did in the last year was have a conversation with you at this desk in the office. And I said, Jen, I'm not getting I should be in better shape than this. And you did a very Socratic interview with me. And of course you made me answer my own questions. And we ended up putting one class that I would go to on the calendar. And I was in shape compared to many of my friends, but I knew that my body should be different and I wanted a different thing for me. And so I signed up for Jen's noon class and I was like, I am going to break the bank. I will not schedule anything during noon class. And I didn't miss very many since I put it on the calendar. And I saw it was amazing. Like, it was amazing that was the thing, because I felt something. I liked the way that I was feeling. And so all of a sudden it started spreading into the week.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This kind of comes more from the other book, The Power of Habit. But one of the things he talks about is Keystone Habits, which is this concept that some habits have this ability to sort of change other habits. You know, like some people say that if they work out regularly, they start eating better. Like, that's an example of that. But I think Monday noon class was an example of that, because once you got it on your calendar on Mondays, you started making time for it on other days, even though those days weren't necessarily that like holy day you had created for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool.
Well, and I mean, I tell people this all the time, but the gym owner had to feel it too. It's so incredible. Saying things so many times to so many people over the years. I end up, of course, coaching myself, and you are such a good coach that we can sit in the office doing office hours and you'll lead me into that. But what was profound to me was understanding what I tell people. Like, I'm like, I don't care if you only sign up for 2 days a week right now. 3 days a week is more profound for somebody than 2 days. But when somebody starts seeing a difference, they will want more and they will create more room, because we love to feel good. We love to feel good. And just doing the thing that we said we want to do, huge dopamine hit. Like, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved feeling good. I'm literally looking forward to the after effect of getting my workout in today more than probably being in the workout today. I love to have it done. I love knowing that I did the thing, and also practicing, pushing myself towards, mastering a calendar and a habit. So it's exciting.
Sure.
Let's talk about one more thing. We talk about, there were kind of two on the list that we were going to talk about. Darn. I think these will dovetail into each other, so we can make a 2-in-1 thing.
Okay.
The idea of positive and negative compounding. So what we are speaking about right now is little habits done over time creates big change. And true change. And that's something like, I'm just going to put an asterisk by this. But what we talk about a lot at 310 is we don't want somebody to come in and just work out. We don't want somebody to come in and do the food thing that we tell them to. What we want people to do is suddenly realize that their identity has changed and they are a healthy person. They eat healthy because that's who they are now. They just enjoy being that way. They work out all the time because that has become who they are now. And identity is an incredible difference maker inside of all of this. And so for many of us, not all of mine are gym based. In fact, most of my habit stuff is not workout stuff that I'm talking about or working through right now. It's life stuff. And identity is a big deal. So right now I'm putting habits into my day that I really struggle seeing as my identity. And that is something that he's talking about here, that we're talking about, that you start with something. You may not feel athletic. You may not feel like you are a healthy eater, but you're going to start putting something down that is healthy or athletic or, for me, organized, right? And as I start to collect more and more of those things and the evidence piles up over time, it compounds. And then all of a sudden, what I'm for sure hoping is, oh, wow, somebody would be like, wow, look at the amount of organization you have, or look at the amount of, whatever it is you have. And you suddenly realize you've become that person and you reach for that identity now.
Well, that's like a chicken and the egg conversation, because I think, and this goes into the next chapter, which we'll obviously go into in more detail, but he starts to say that it is hard to put something on your calendar every single day that you do not believe is part of your identity. And I think he used this example in the book that was totally me. It maybe is me still, but he talks about a writer. It's hard to tell yourself every single day you're going to write a book. You're going to write, however many pages of a book. You're just going to sit down and write every single day if you don't believe you're a writer. So I think part of that lesson too is that you need to put that identity on first, to say, I am going to go to the gym every day because I am an athlete, or I eat healthy things, or I make healthy choices because I am a person who makes health a priority in my life. And so the more that you can jump into that identity, the better success you will have making those habitual changes.
I agree with you with everything that you said, except I do think that that the egg comes before the chicken. So what I mean by that is,
yeah, you have to believe it's possible.
It does not matter if you say I am an athletic person and you do not, you know what I mean? Like you don't feel, if you don't believe that thing, it doesn't matter. And what we are coaching people to do is you start with going to the gym, come see us. Whether you feel totally awkward, whether you can't do one box jump, whether you can't, it doesn't matter to us. You come in because we're going to teach you these things and we'll teach you a habit. And I mean, our gym is full of people who never played a sport, didn't identify like that. But if you look at what they can do, like what they can do with a barbell, what they can do with gymnastics, I mean, it's clearly very high-level athletic things compared to people who are walking around. And they didn't have one stitch of coaching. Not once did anyone say, you're an athlete, to them.
Sure.
And so...
you have to believe it. I don't think you can lie to yourself about it. I think you have to be willing to put the work in. But I thought that was interesting what he said, was that, like, it's this concept that a writer would write every day, but I can't. And so you have to start you have to start believing you are capable of being a writer. A writer who would write every day, or whatever the thing is, whatever the goal is. But yeah, I do think you have to sort of prove it to yourself that you can do that.
Yeah. Now, would you
have to be willing to wear that identity.
Would you tell somebody, don't put it on your calendar until you believe it?
No.
Right. So I think we're saying the same thing. I'm
not trying to argue with you. I'm just saying it's sort of these two things sort of come together.
Yeah. We're saying this. We're saying the same thing. I knew we were.
So, yeah. I think so.
Yep.
I think that's the reason why some stick and some don't.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that you are able to be this thing, it will fall off your calendar, your list, your priorities.
Yeah.
You don't believe you're capable of this change.
Yep. Well, I think in his example, didn't he say he started writing twice a week? about it.
Yep.
Do you remember that? Yeah. So, and then the more somebody recognized that he had this volume and they said, oh, you write. And then he started understanding that, oh, I've done this thing. I've put together. There's now this thing that, like, I've written so many things that I'm a writer, and
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You embody that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's land the plane and see if we can, love to maybe talk about, I don't know, some action items, something to challenge people with. I would say I have a great hope that somebody listening to this and somebody who's listening and it's been ramping up and they're like, I needed this. This is exactly, you're all in. You found yourself listening. You're at the end of the QuickPod and you're like, I'm in. What I'm interested in telling that person, myself included, is start now. What is the first thing that you can do? And we talk about low-hanging fruit all the time.
Yeah.
The reason I want to say start now is because it is fool's gold to say, New Year's is in a few days, or Monday is coming. And you don't have to become the thing. You're not under pressure to become the thing. It's just practicing. What is one habit? And I'm going to give a shout out to my sister right now, who she listened to our last QuickPod. She went and got the book. I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. And she heard us talking about soda and Coke, right? That's like a motif in our family. Like, we grew up eating popcorn, drinking Coke, and hanging out. And so she was like, I'm not going to have Coke for one day. And she said it was so hard, right? It was really hard for her. And I loved her for it. Like, she already did the one thing. Now, your experience was you were just not going to have it, and you didn't have it for 8 years. That's not going to be my sister's experience with it, nor do I think she necessarily wants it, and that's okay. But just the fact that she did something already. She said, I'm going to try this.
I think we could even make it smaller.
Yeah. What would you tell my sister in this thing? Because she knows, she loves, I think she loves it. You know what I mean? She loves it, but she also knows that it's counterproductive to the place that she wants to go. I don't think I'm selling her out, by the way. I think she's fine with us giving her a shout out.
I sure hope so. We love you anyway, Carrie. But I think that, one of the ways I think I got myself off of soda all those years ago was finding something else. Yeah. And so whether it's sparkling water or whether it's lemonade or something else that is your go-to thing, that now maybe you just reach for that Coke less often, because you now have this sparkling water. You might even just reach for that. If the habit of that might be having that readily available, and then you might find yourself reaching for the Coke half as much, or or whatever. That half as much that's a big shift over all she did was come up with another option.
Right. And
so there's something about taking out of the Coke all day, every day, that feels, oh my God, hard. Yeah. What else could I do? What else could I have? This thing feels so important.
Yeah. And she sees it so well too. She's just like, I just wanted to try it for a day. She goes, I don't know that it would go. Yeah, it is. And I just really appreciate it. And I appreciate it that it was, because all of us have something in our lives. We've got something. We probably have 4 things that you'd be like, I know that doesn't belong there. Not with the person that I want to be. There's,
that's the thing.
That's it. And so to choose one thing and just experiment, what could that be? And I think what we are shouting today and what we want to challenge people is make it something, experiment with something that you can repeat.
Yes.
That over time, like, remember, mine was 1 noon class with Coach Jen. And I knew that I could make that because Coach Jen was coaching it. I didn't have to coach it. And so all I had to do was not schedule anything around that, which we have a problem with. We're like, I'm going to do that thing. But then we're busy and we're like, oh, I scheduled something else there. But I would put it on my calendar. And that was the thing.
Yeah. And I know it has to, and I think the best way to find it, if you don't even know where to start, if you don't know what habit it is, you don't know what habits are, helping you or not helping you, I think what can be useful is looking at the thing you want, come up with 10 different things that could help you get there, and chisel away at one or part of one, or, yeah.
Yep.
I think I did that with a client today. We picked, she does want to lose weight. I could think of 10 things pretty quickly that could help someone lose weight, right? It doesn't even have to be all food related. But what are the things that are doable now? And they don't even have to feel like deprivation, like no Coke, but it could feel like half the Coke, or, finding something else.
Sure.
I think I did mine with lemonade. Like, I literally was like, I'm going to just get lemonades now. I'm not going to order the Diet Coke. I'm going to get a lemonade, because something about lemonade wasn't addictive for me. I was like, it was an option other than water, but it wasn't something where I became addicted to lemonade. It was the Coke was the thing. So it kind of like weaned me off, and then I ended up just drinking water.
Yeah.
But you just find your thing that helps you get to the bigger picture.
Yep. We talk about that a lot of time with like alcohol and stuff. Instead of 3 drinks at the end of the night, like what is one? Could you savor just that one? And then could you sustain it? So yeah. All right. Well, that is our chapter 1 discussion today. And this is such a great talk. Please, if you hear this and this resonates with you, reach out to us. If we can be a help to you in any way, please do. You can go to CrossFit310.com if you don't know us, or if you aren't here, send us a message. We'd love to talk with you. If we can be a help to you, we'd love to. And if anything happens as a result of this, or you're coming with us and you're just going to read this book and you want to be in this conversation, oh my gosh, we love that. Like, we want to be doing this with people. And we're so interested in being a help and a value to people, no matter where you are, and if we can, in many different ways. So please let us know. Check out Jen McMahon. You can, again, go to our website. She does health coaching. She's got a Run Fit Club. She trains here. She has personal training, and she coaches classes, and she is amazing. She's such a huge part of this place. To all our people at CrossFit 310, this is so exciting for us. This is a moment for us to go together. And we're really excited about this conversation. So if you've got the book and you're listening, this is great. Thanks. Anything, Jen?
That is it. Thanks for having me.
All right.
It was fun.
Good day to you.
Good day.